Hi and welcome. We're excited that you're here today to join us to learn more about how you can build an intelligent contact center experience with Amazon Connect and Salesforce. We'll be sharing a little bit about both of those platforms, followed by a demo, and then we'll talk a little bit about where we're headed. My name is Randy Hand, and I'm a Principal BDM at AWS, working with the Connect team.
And I'm Mark Rutkowski, Principal Product Manager, also with AWS on the product team as well.
Wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about how we got here. So Amazon is well known for its customer service, and one of our key tenets is that we strive to be Earth's most customer-centric company. And we know that in order to accomplish that mission, we have to provide great customer experience when they contact us. We have to do this for millions of customers across many, many languages all around the globe. And we do this every day with over 70,000 agents. And you can imagine that on days like Cyber Monday or Prime Day, that number can be much, much higher. Now, we found ourselves in the same position that many of our customers are facing now about 12 years ago. We were looking around the market trying to figure out how to find a contact center solution that would scale with us, that would grow with us, that would be open and flexible, that would have the reliability and security that we demanded. And we just didn't find anything. And so what we did was we decided that we were going to build our own internal solution. And that's how Amazon Connect was born. So if you fast forward about 10 years of scaling and hardening that solution, we took the core technologies from that and brought that to market as Amazon Connect. So Amazon Connect is a fully cloud-based omni-channel contact center solution that will scale to businesses of any size. It has all of the components needed for a great contact center, including skills-based routing, so we can make sure that the contact is getting to the right place to get them help in the least amount of time possible. We have call recordings, so you can turn this on or off for all of your contacts, and those are recorded in your own private data repository. So you own all of that data. We have reports and analytics, both real-time and historic, to let you know what's going on in your contact center, to be able to see what happened, to be able to look for trends and insights in that data. And of course, with any voice solution, we need to have very high-quality voice. And we achieve this through use of technologies such as WebRTC and the Opus codec to deliver premium quality voice for all of our customers. Now, I mentioned that one of the key tenets when we were looking for a solution was something that was going to be open, and that's because we wanted to be able to have the freedom to choose the technologies that not only were available in the market at the time, but in the future as well. So we wanted to have something that would easily let us plug in to other applications without having to go and procure very proprietary skill sets in the market. And so that's how we built Amazon Connect to have that same capability. So if we think about things like where does data about our customers live? In this scenario, we're talking about Salesforce. We want to be able to have all of that data accessible in the customer experience and also be able to push data back into it when necessary. For call recordings, these are delivered to your Amazon S3 bucket, and that's your data. And it's just like everything else in the system and everything else in AWS. Your data is your data, and you own that. You own the encryption of that and the management of that data always. We have a variety of ways that we deliver data, not just the call recordings, but also agent data. So if you want to plug into workforce management type solutions to tell what is going on with your agent populations, then you can do that, and we'll have a picture of that in our demo later. We also have real-time and historic metrics that you can either use natively within the product or that you can stream into your own data warehouse for your own analytics needs. And then finally, we have something called our contact control panel. This is the soft phone that is comes with Amazon Connect, and you can easily embed that into an existing web application, or you can use the underlying APIs to create an entirely custom integration for your agent desktops. And so in this case, we've plugged that CCP directly into Salesforce Service Cloud, and you'll get a chance to see what that looks like when we get to the demo. So the way that we actually connect these two platforms today is through something called a CTI Adapter. So this is something that AWS built. We recognized very early on in bringing Amazon Connect to market that CRM was going to play a critically important role in the overall contact center experience. And we also knew that Salesforce was the leader in this space, and so it just made sense to provide this for our customers. There are many features that are built right into this today, which you'll get to see. Things like click to call, single sign-on, IVR data dip, so being able to get data passed between the two platforms, omni-channel, call logging and recording, call disposition, screen pop. These are all available today, as well as some new things that we've introduced very recently, including chat, real-time reports within Service Cloud itself, some extensions to the Lightning CCP that lets you trigger actions based on events that are occurring in your contact. We also support on the sales side, the high velocity sales part of the platform. And then Contact Lens is a really interesting technology we launched at reInvent, which combines several of our AI services to do transcription, sentiment analysis, and then allow you to easily search through that as part of your call records. And that's something that you can look for to be added into this moving forward. So let's take a look at an example of how we can deliver a great and personalized experience using these technologies.
Hi Nikki Wolf, I apologize that your flight was canceled. I can rebook you for the next available flight, departing at 10 p.m. Would you like to book that now?
No, I'd rather rebook for the same time tomorrow. Is that possible?
Yes, that flight is available departing at 9 a.m. out of San Francisco, arriving in Seattle at 11:45 a.m. I can book you in seat 12C, it's an aisle. Would you like me to do that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so let's take a quick look at what we saw here. First of all, we were able to know who you are when you called in. Everyone's had the frustrating experience where you have to call up, give your name, give your number, wait, get transferred, give your name, give your number again, and it's a really miserable experience for customers. And this is an example of how we can immediately identify you and use what we know about you to provide a personalized experience. So in this case, we were able to look you up. We know that you are booked on a flight with us. We know that that flight is delayed. So we have a pretty good idea of why you're calling us in the first place. Now we can proactively try to serve you in a way that's very efficient. In this case, we are using a LexBot, and Amazon Lex is a natural language understanding technology that's part of the AWS platform that is pre-integrated into Amazon Connect, so you can build very rich interactive experiences using Lex. And in this case, Lex was able to identify why the user was calling and then serve the option up for her to rebook that flight, which was exactly what she was looking for in the first place. And she was able to do that in a very natural way, not a press 1, press 2, press 3, many menus deep type of experience that is very common out there today. So let's take a look at how this experience could progress even more and how we can engage an agent if that is appropriate.
Yes, that flight is available departing at 9 a.m. out of San Francisco, arriving in Seattle at 11:45 a.m. I can book you in seat 12C, it's an aisle. Would you like me to do that?
Can I get a first-class upgrade for my inconvenience?
One moment while I connect you with a customer service associate.
Hi, Nikki. My name is Alan. I'm sorry for your inconvenience. I'm checking to see what we can do to make your flight to Seattle tomorrow more comfortable.
Okay, so what we're seeing here is a continuation of this very personalized experience. We're able to get our caller rebooked on a flight that is to her satisfaction, and to do that proactively and with very low friction on her part. Now, because there is an interruption, she's asked for an upgrade, and this is where we may want to engage an agent. The important thing here is that when that contact passes from the IVR part of the experience to the agent, all of the contextual data about that conversation goes with it. So the agent will have the transcript, they'll understand if there's already a case open, and they'll have a history of that interaction so that they can immediately begin to serve that customer without having them re-explain what they're doing and what they need and who they are. So it creates a much, much better experience for the caller. So now that we've seen some examples of what this looks like from a customer experience, what we'd like to show you is what we've done to make this type of experience very easy to build with Salesforce and Amazon Connect, and then show you a little demo about what that can do for you. So I'll turn it over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Randy. So today I'm going to be walking you through setting up an Amazon Connect instance, and then we'll set up the CTI Adapter and the Salesforce serverless Lambdas. I'll give you an overview of a simple contact flow leveraging Lex and the serverless Lambdas, and finally we'll finish up with a demo. So I'm logged into the AWS Management Console. First thing I'm doing is I'm going to set up my Amazon Connect instance. So I'm going to click here. That's going to take me to adding an instance. Let's configure that and set that up. So the first thing I do is I set up the identity management for this particular instance. I have three options. The first one is essentially allowing Amazon Connect to be that identity management using simple directory underneath the covers. I can link to an existing directory, for example, LDAP or Active Directory. And finally, I can use any SAML 2.0 based authentication. For example, I can use Salesforce as the IDP. We'll actually have a trailhead out shortly that will allow you to set up that seamless SSO between Amazon Connect and Salesforce. So essentially you could log in with your Salesforce ID, and that will seamlessly log you into Amazon Connect. But for now, we're going to use the let Amazon Connect store and manage the users on your behalf. And when we set up this initial URL, we have to pick, in terms of the instance name, a unique name as part of that. So I'm going to pick one that I think should be unique. My Connect demo dash, and then a few numbers here. Click next. The next step here is to create an administrator. We're going to recommend that you would set up your administrator. For the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to skip it. Again, as an IM, if you have an IM role, you can essentially always log in from an admin perspective into the instance, and I'll show you that as well. But that's, ideally, we would always recommend setting up an admin user as part of the instance creation process. Next, the type of telephony options you want to configure with the instance, whether I want to handle incoming calls or outbound calls. We're going to leave both here as a default. Data storage. So the next step here is essentially in terms of storing your recordings, your scheduled reports, and your chat transcripts are going to be stored into Amazon S3, which is our storage service that we have within AWS. We're going to go with the defaults here. You can always customize those and override those in terms of your existing S3 buckets that you may already have set up. And then finally, we're going to review the settings that we've got here and create the instance. Now this will typically take a couple minutes to set that up, and off you go. Now, because we have a limited amount of time today, we're gonna jump over to the Salesforce side and start getting that going at this point. All right. So you can see here I've got my Salesforce instance set up and ready to go. The first thing that I would need to do is I would go over to the App Exchange and basically install the CTI Adapter. You can see here we've got all the notes around it in terms of the CTI Adapter itself. You can see the customization guides that we have here. In this release that we announced at Dreamforce, essentially version 4. We'll call it 4.x. We actually have now 2 setup guides. We have now one for Salesforce Lightning, and we have one for Classic and Console. So depending on which version you want to install, you want to read the appropriate setup guides. For the purposes of today's demo, we're actually going to focus on Salesforce Lightning and how that's set up. If I were to click on that link, you would see I'd have the full a guide here set up that I could walk through and see, and what we highly recommend is I walk through this guide in terms of setting it up. We're also going to have a trailhead out soon that will walk you up how to set up the basic aspect of this integration between the two and walk you through all those steps as well. Let's go back. So the first step I'm going to do is once I essentially get it now, it's going to install the package. Once that package is installed, I will go back to my environment and start to set up the CTI adapter. Because again, we have limited time, we're going to, we'll assume the package has been installed into either my sandbox or my production environment, and now I'm ready to set it up. So the first step I'm actually going to go to here is the CTI adapter. Actually, let me go back again here. I'm actually going to go to the call centers. Let's go to setup here. Call centers. So because this is a CTI integration, you have to set up essentially a call center with the CTI adapter. For those of you who've used our previous versions, especially the 3.x versions, you will probably recognize the 3 different contact call center configurations here. So you have Classic, Console, and Lightning. With the new package, this Lightning CCP actually goes away, and you have now what we call the AC Lightning adapter. When we introduced 4.0, we actually, as Randy had highlighted earlier, we introduced a number of new features, the biggest being the Lightning CCP extensions. That gives us a lot more flexibility in being able to configure the different feature sets of the CTI adapter. If we look at the old adapter, we'll click on this here, you'll see that we had a number of settings, and it was getting quite long. So it was becoming harder and harder to manage these types of settings, especially, for example, SSO. We had some customers who had really long SSO URLs, and fitting that into a contact center configuration didn't always work out as smoothly as we'd liked it. So what we've done is we've optimized that and made it a lot easier in terms of configuring it going forward. So what you'll notice here, essentially in the config, is it's actually what it points now to is essentially a new Lightning application, essentially a page, if you will, that's going to have all of those settings that you can set up now. So it's a much simpler setup here. And now what we'll do is I'll walk you over to the CTI adapter page that'll walk through all the rest of the configuration that we'll have there. So let me go back to this tab. So I've already added the CTI adapter page here. I'm going to go to AC Lightning adapter. And this is essentially where I'm going to enable all the settings for my CTI adapter for Lightning. So you'll see here we've got the adapter name. We've got the instance. So this is where I'm going to set up my Amazon Connect instance for that particular CTI adapter. If I want to set up a custom ringtone, I can do that here. I can set up, have the CCP pop out. I can do presence sync as well. So presence sync is our ability to essentially sync presence between our voice or chat and Salesforce's omnichannel capabilities. So for example, if you wanted to use our voice with Salesforce's chat, or you wanted to use our voice with Salesforce's email or SMS, you can do all of that and essentially have presence syncing between the two. So when a call is coming in, I don't want to be bothered with any emails or chats, for example. Media lists, which is really around setting that up on VDIs and supporting that. Single sign-on. So here's where I would set up my SSO and relay state for any Salesforce single sign-on for any SAML 2.0 provider. User-defined settings, we can skip over that. Customizations, we now enable you to do some customizations within the CCP. So for example, you can embed a button below the CCP in the bottom panel. For example, if you had a call into your backend service through the web API gateway and you wanted to leverage that. We have attributes. These attributes here allow you to essentially have these pop-up attributes, both from in terms of what may be dynamically coming from the contact flow, or what you may have decided to essentially hard code here within your configuration. For an example, we've actually got a URL, and when the call comes in or the chat comes in, we're essentially we'll pop a URL and we'll actually dynamically insert the case number, which is an attribute that's being captured as part of the contact flow. So you can imagine if you had some other system that you needed to pass context into, you could easily provision that all here and set that up as part of your key value pairs. We have scripts. So this is one of the big changes that we made to the CTI adapter. So one of the big aspects of feedback that we got from both customers and partners was the ability to continue to customize and extend the CTI adapter model. And what we found was trying to add infinite combinations of configuration was becoming a bit unwieldy and hard to support. So essentially what we introduced in this new version is the ability for you to write custom, we'll call them scriptlets or Java scriptlets that you can run right directly within Salesforce and do things like screen pop, for example, create a task. You can also, essentially do a lot of other things in terms of pretty much any type of interaction within the Salesforce object model, for example. So we created a number of these sample scripts. When you install the adapter, you get 3 sample scripts to start. If you actually go into the documentation and you go here to configuring CTI scripts, we actually walk you through this in detail in terms of the event model that we've set up. And if you're familiar with our Streams API, you'll see that essentially that mimics a lot of those API interfaces as well. And then we've got some additional utility functions as well as some aspects that basically tie into Salesforce's API as well. So this is a really good, again, recommend reading through the documentation, see some of the sample scripts that we give you. We actually show you, if you scroll down a little bit here in the doc, we actually give you a number of sample scripts. So for example, click to dial, right? A fairly simple one. You can essentially copy and paste this into your scripts, and you could leverage that and start to run that here right directly. We're looking at introducing essentially a cookbook that will allow you to take a lot of these scripts and enable those, easily within your Salesforce CTI adapter. So I'm going to walk you through a simple one here, actually, and this will be one we'll actually be demoing in a little bit. So this is essentially the Amazon Connect chat context. So we have the script name, we have the source of the event type here, actually the event type and the event itself. And then we can set a debugger. So you can also debug these if you're trying to figure out what's going on as you're trying to, if your script is going wrong. I can turn on and off these certain scripts. So maybe I want to have only certain ones active, and then I can edit those all here. So let's go into chat contact. So you can see right here, I've got a built-in script editor. So I can go in here, essentially set up, write my script and then test it and then validate that it works as expected. And just to walk you through what this is essentially doing is it's getting the contact, getting the queue. It's going to create a task. And then we'll scroll down a little bit here. And then at that point, it's going to do a screen pop if it gets the case number. And then we're also going to do a screen pop based on the email. And you'll see in the demo in a little bit, I'm going to pass all that information and we're going to execute the script and you'll see all of that information pop up as part of the chat itself. Let me close this out. And then we have present sync rules, which I talked about earlier. This is essentially where you would configure that in the CTI adapter. All right, so let me close this out. Go back to my home screen here. So one other aspect in terms of setting up the adapter is setting up the Lambda serverless. Sorry, the serverless Lambda functions. And where you're going to find those is in our serverless application repository. So if you click Browse, and you show apps that create custom IAM roles, type in Salesforce. You'll see Amazon Connect Salesforce Lambdas. And essentially, at this point, you're going to do one click, and that will one-click install into your AWS account, and you can provision those Lambdas, and they will then be able to start talking to Salesforce through your contact flows. And I'll show you in a little bit what some examples of that. What I also recommend is before you deploy this in the setup guide, again, look through that. We actually tell you how to collect the information within Salesforce, so you can set that up properly and set up the ability to easily provision this. It makes it a little easier in terms of collecting that information up front when you're going through this process. So once we've deployed these Lambdas, we can then configure them into our contact flow. So let me show you a simple contact flow that we've set up here. So for those of you who've watched my video on the App Exchange, you'll see this is very similar to that. When we at Dreamforce, we announced chat in addition to voice. And what this call flow is essentially, it has the ability to both use either voice or chat. So you'll see that in the demo as I go through it. And that's one of the key advantages that we have with Amazon Connect, is being able to have that true omni-channel experience, through this particular contact flow. So you can see here, we're going to set the logging behavior. We're going to set the voice. The first aspect of this call flow is we're going to capture why the customer is calling. So the use case for this particular contact flow is there's a small energy company called Cirrus Energy. That company, has a small contact center. They take calls in. They could be either a sales call or a service call. So they want to be able to determine why the customer is calling. And then once they capture that, in this case, if it's a support call, they're then going to capture the actual case number. If the case number doesn't exist, they'll actually create the case and then allow them to screen pop that new case. Or if it's an existing case, they'll obviously screen pop that existing case, and we'll pass all of that context into the agent. And if it's a chat, you'll see as well, it's going to pass the context of that whole conversation as part of the chat as well. And again, we'll show you all this as part of the demo, but I kind of wanted to walk you through sort of high level what this call flow is actually doing. And in terms of the Lambda functions that I just talked about earlier, one of the advantages is once you deploy those Lambda functions, you can essentially set up these contact flows with no code to do lookups into Salesforce, or you can update records into Salesforce. So let me walk you through a simple invocation of that Lambda function. So we have an operation called lookup, where I'm going to look at the case object. I'm going to get the field's ID and case number, and that case number is going to come off the Lex slot case number that I just got from the Lex bot. So the Lex bot essentially asked me for the case number, and I'm getting that information here, and then I'm basically looking that up into Salesforce. So again, simple example, but it shows you the power of these Lambda functions and being able to quickly look up information against Salesforce and then leverage them as part of your contact flow. Again, our goal here is to reduce the friction of the integration between the two platforms. So now you've got your contact flow set up, ready to go. And what we're going to essentially do is I'm going to walk you through the demo, and we'll show this all coming together. So let's switch back to Salesforce. So I'm the agent now. I'm logged into Salesforce. I've got the CCP here. So this is our contact control panel, essentially a soft phone. For those of you who haven't seen it, this is V2 of our CCP, which enables chat. So you can see I've got a tab here for voice, and I've got a tab here for chat. I've got different states that I can set: available, coaching, lunch, offline, again, all configurable within Connect. I'm going to minimize this. Now, the first invocation of this, I'm going to do voice. And then the second invocation of this, I'm going to do chat. It's going to be using the same exact call flow. And you'll notice that as we go through this demo itself. So let me pull up my phone here, and let's make the voice call first.
Hello. Thanks for contacting Cirrus Energy. How can I help you today?
I have a power issue.
Okay. What's your case number?
1166.
Please hold while I transfer you to the next available specialist to help further. Thank you for calling. Your call is very important to us.
So you'll see there, it's now screen popped. I'm going to click accept as the agent. Mute that so you guys don't hear that. And you'll see here, screen pop the contact, screen pop the case, and it's actually doing some transcription here as well. So it's all of that has happened in terms of that contact flow and passing all of that context into the agent. So again, simple example of showing you, collecting all that context through the contact flow and passing that all into Salesforce so you can see it all here. Remember those attributes I showed you earlier? Well, here, it actually dynamically updated the URL here. Again, this is just a dummy URL, but I dynamically injected the case number here. So I could click this, and perhaps I have another back office system that it would launch this based on the URL, based on this case, and I could look that up here as well, right? Or, for example, I may pass an attribute that says this is a gold tier customer. So I want to know that, right, as the agent in terms of that caller coming in. So again, I have additional information as part of the call. Let's hang up this call. I'm going to clear the contact. Now I'm going to do the same demo using chat. So let's pull up my chat front end. So now that we've done the voice call, what I'm going to show you next is the chat demo. So what you see here is essentially Salesforce Communities. Salesforce Communities is essentially the front end that you can use as a business, right, for your customers to, for example, take your support calls. In this case, we actually leveraged it where we've taken Salesforce's omnichannel widget and we've swapped it out with ours. So as we saw with the voice call earlier, right, it says chat or call. So we've already called the number. So in this case, we're actually going to chat to interact with the agent. So in this case, I'm going to Sarah. There it is. There we go. Chat with Cirrus. Now again, to note here, it's going to use the same contact flow that we did for voice. So you should see the same prompts that are going to flow through here. Again, thanks for contacting Cirrus Energy. How can I help you today? I have a power issue. Okay. What's your case number? 1166. Now, since we're going to switch back to the agent experience, we should see the screen pop. So now the screen pop is coming in. Remember that chat script I showed you earlier? So we're going to accept the chat. So it's popped created the task as I walked you through earlier, right? So created the task where this is saying it's a chat from the basic queue. It popped the contact based on the email, and then it popped the case number based on what it captured from the interaction from Lex. Also, as the agent, you can see here, I've actually got the full transcript of the interaction, including with the bot. So for example, if there was an issue or the customer may be unhappy or I didn't get the case number, I can see the interaction that the customer has had with the contact flow and the bot, and I can see all that information here as well. So I'm going to end the chat here. And you can imagine you could add actually, further improve this. So for example, if as me as the customer, as I called in initially, first I may want to add some personalization. So I may look up Sarah and say, welcome back, Sarah. Nice to see you again. In addition to that, I may also look up and realize they have a case number and say, welcome back, Sarah. I noticed that you have a case open with us, case number 1166. Is that why you're calling? And again, this is leading to a better customer service experience rather than, in terms of what I just showed you. And now I've prompted, Sarah in terms of asking her for information. Well, if I already have all that information, why don't I present it with Sarah to begin with and really create that better experience overall? So she's not having to chase the information. you're giving a tour and really making it reducing that friction so the customer has a better experience overall. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have an updated Trailhead pretty soon, probably later today actually. That's going to have an updated version of this with a new adapter that you can go and try out this integration for yourself. And with that, I'll hand it back to Randy.
Thank you, Mark, for that. And I wanted to share with you some exciting new news from Dreamforce in 2019, so just a few weeks ago. There were several announcements about the relationship with Salesforce and AWS. And one of those that's particularly interesting to this conversation is the launch of something called Service Cloud Voice. So with Service Cloud Voice, Salesforce is bringing to market a pre-integrated agent, supervisor, and administrator experience that is built on their Service Cloud platform and powered by Amazon Connect. What we found and what we heard from customers is that although many of them like to have the flexibility to create very highly customized experiences for their agents, other customers just wanted something that was easy to adopt, that allowed them to take advantage of all of the technology that is built into both Salesforce and Amazon Connect and the surrounding AI capabilities of those platforms. And so that's really what this is going to bring to market, is a product that will be available and can be ordered beginning in the summer of 2020. It will provide a fully integrated agent desktop experience, which will support voice as well as all of the other channels customers are asking for. It will support real-time transcription, sentiment analysis, things like next best action and looking up assets in a KMS system. And the idea is to provide a really great agent experience out of the box that's bringing all of the information to the agent that they need to serve that contact in the most efficient and best experience for the end customer. Additionally, there is functionality built in from a supervisor perspective to allow them to see the real-time what's happening in their contact center, and to even be able to intervene if they see something that's going sideways. For example, that a sentiment for a particular contact is trending up or down. So this is all being packaged together and will be available soon. So keep a lookout for more announcements for this exciting new development. Now, how can you find out more? Well, there's a few different areas I would suggest. Of course, the Amazon Connect site. From there, you can find all of the documentation, some customer case studies and references, as well as a link to how to get started with Amazon Connect. The CTI Adapter is available off of App Exchange. And let me just make a quick point about that. Everything that you saw today is available today. And so what many customers are choosing to do if they're considering Service Cloud Voice in the future is to start today and use the CTI Adapter to understand all of the capabilities of the platforms, to understand the data ingress and egress, how everything works. All of the work that they're doing today will be portable into Service Cloud Voice should they choose to go that route once it's available. So there's no loss of productivity or any wasted effort in evaluating the platforms now. So that's what we're encouraging customers to do. We have our Contact Center blog channel, which has a number of blogs which help you walk through different use cases and how those would be configured. And then we're going to have a presence at both the AWS events throughout the year as well as Salesforce events throughout the year. And so I've included a couple of links here where you can go to sign up for those. And especially after the launch in summer, I would expect that you'll see that this is a great venue to come and find out more about this joint solution.
And so, Randy, one thing to highlight on that as well is off the CTI Adapter page, we have a link to the Trailhead. So the Trailhead is actually a really good resource for folks who haven't set this up before. It walks you through step by step in terms of how to install and set it up.
That's great. Thank you, Mark. And thank you for everyone who joined today. We hope that you found this informative. We hope that helps you to better understand the capabilities that you can bring to your contact center by leveraging these two platforms. We'll now open it up to some Q&A. So please let us know what questions that you have.